恭敬大德圣定，为此法为济一切众生，经转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputoche. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in the billion eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, welcome to today's class. I think today is, class number 37 of our exploration of the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. And just before we begin by chanting Medicine Master Buddha's name, just give me a moment. I forgot to email JinHe the how you say the link for today's class. Just give me a second while I email it to her. Okay, what's this? In the meantime, does anyone have any questions or remarks or anything they would like to share? Okay, if you do, you can type it into the chat box. Okay, I'm going to recite Medicine Master Buddha's name 7 times and invite everyone to join me in putting our palms together. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Namo, quelling disasters, lending life. Medicine Master. Buddha, medicine master, does come one. 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 Okay, let me change the slides and slideshow. Today we have a very fun class, I hope, as we continue exploring the sutra. Okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to finish the remainder of the Pure Land part in the sutra, and from there then we'll go on to a new section of the sutra where Shakyamuni Buddha starts explaining um, all the different how you say unwholesome habits that human beings have and the retribution of such habits, but how hearing the name of Medicine Master Buddha is able to save them. So without further ado, let's read the sutra. Also, I'm going to invite everyone to join me in putting our palms together. Residing in that land are two bodhisattvas mahasattvas. The first is called universally radiant sunlight, and the second, universally radiant moonlight. They are the leaders among the immeasurable, uncountable hosts of bodhisattvas in that land, and will be the successors to that Buddha. They are able to maintain the precious treasury of the proper Dharma of the world-honored one, Medicine Master Vaidurya like Tathagata. Therefore, Manjushri, all good men and women who have faith should vow to be born in that Buddha's land. So this is Shakyamuni Buddha explaining how in Medicine Master Buddha's Pure Land, he has two great bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, one called universally radiant sunlight, and the second one is universally radiant moonlight. So before I read this sutra, I never quite, how you say, knew about these two bodhisattvas. And in fact, we have at the back of City of 10,000 Buddhas, we have these two, we have images of both of these bodhisattvas, which I never knew were them. I always thought they were some interpretation of Guan Bodhisattva. Right at the back, we have two of them. And for years and years, during circumambulation, I would walk past them, not knowing who they were. Let me show you. I have some slides that have some photos of both these bodhisattvas. Okay, so if you look at your screen, you'll see that traditionally, it is said that Medicine Master Buddha is always in the middle, and on the left is Moonlight Bodhisattva, and if you can look at the lotus stalk that he's holding, there's a crescent-shaped moon. It looks like a circle in this, but it's a shape at the bottom of a crescent moon. And on Medicine Master Buddha's left-hand side, which is our right, looking at him, will be Sunlight Bodhisattva. Okay, and then this image was taken from a Japanese book. So that's why you have the names Gakko and Nikko Bosatsu. Bosatsu is Japanese for Bodhisattva. And Medicine Master Buddha in Japan is known as Yakushi. Okay. And then this is Moonlight Bodhisattva and Sunlight Bodhisattva from one of the monasteries. I think this is a museum. I'm not sure if it's a monastery or museum. In Japan, Medicine Master Buddha, just like in China, was worshipped for quite a while. And in Japan now, there are some monasteries that have been preserved until now. that are devoted exclusively to Medicine Master Buddha. And what you see in front of you is a very nice bronze, how you say, statue of Medicine Master Buddha and his two sages. This is in an actual monastery in Japan. It's not a museum. And this is something which is a bit more, I guess, contemporary. Reminds me of the aesthetics. Remind me of it's like a very Vietnamese aesthetic, very bright colors. Okay, so now let's move on to the next section of the sutra. At that time, the world-honored one again spoke to the pure youth Manjushri, saying, Manjushri, there are living beings who don't distinguish good from evil, who indulge in greed and stinginess, and who know nothing of giving or its rewards. They are stupid, ignorant, and lack the foundation of faith. They accumulate much wealth and many treasures and ardently guard them. When they see a beggar coming, they feel displeased. When they have to practice an act of charity that does not benefit themselves, they feel as though they were cutting a piece of flesh from their body, and they suffer deep and painful regret. Okay. There's, I think there's 3 slides to this section. There's the next slide. There are other innumerable, avaricious, and miserly living beings who hoard money and necessities that they don't use even for themselves, how much less for their parents, wives, or servants, or for beggars. At the end of their lives, such beings will be reborn among the hungry ghosts or animals. If they have heard the name of that Buddha, medicine master Vaidurya like Tathagata, in their former human existence, and they recall that Tathagata's name for the briefest moment while they are in the evil destinies, they will immediately be reborn in the human realm. Okay, let's move on before we start the discussion. Moreover, they will remember their past lives and will dread the sufferings of the evil destinies. They will not delight in worldly pleasures, but will rejoice in giving and praise others who give. They will not begrudge giving whatever they have. Gradually, to those who come to beg, they will be able to give away their own head, eyes, hands, feet, and even their entire body, to say nothing of their money and property. Okay, so these last 3 slides, it's all about giving. And let me unpack. Let me go back to the slide number 1 of this section. Okay, so the Buddha here is talking about beings who are stingy, who are not just stingy, but greedy as well. They like to accumulate stuff, they like to keep stuff, and they don't like to share. Okay, so the Buddha says these people, he uses the word stupid, ignorant, and lack the foundation of faith. Okay, and when these people see a beggar coming, they actually feel unhappy, and when they have to practice an act of charity that does not benefit themselves, they feel as though they were cutting a piece of flesh from their body. So that's how stingy they are. And so it's not to say these people don't practice charity, but the key here is how you say, charity that does not benefit themselves. What real charity or real giving or real generosity, you do it because you want to help the other person. Your main intention is the other person's well-being. So there are a lot of people who can be extremely generous or charitable, but it's only because they get something in return. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Says the Buddha says these people will not use this money for themselves, how much less for their own parents, wives, servants, or for beggars. And I have a very funny story that was told by the Buddha himself that I will share once we get through this and the next slide. So it's interesting that here Shakyamuni Buddha explains that for such people, they will be reborn in the evil destinies because behavior like being greedy and not understanding how to share is how you say, these are the natures of animals and hungry ghosts. So which is why someone who's really greedy, that kind of mindset of only looking up for themselves, a mind like that will bring itself into the lower realms upon your rebirth. It's not someone's punishing you, it is your own mind naturally goes towards that existence because that's what you are used to. That's what you think is normal. So it's interesting here that Shakyamuni Buddha says that before they fall, before people who are stingy and greedy, before they fall, if they have happened to hear, like all of you right now, if they have happened to hear the name of Medicine Master Buddha, then when they are in the evil destinies or the lower destinies, if they can recall that Tathagata's name for even the briefest moment, they will immediately be reborn in the human realm. Okay? And then, so all of you here, you have insurance. Okay? I hope none of you will fall. And we probably won't because I'm going to spend not just the remainder of today, but probably next week and the week following that, talking about giving or generosity because there's so much to talk about. Okay. So the Buddha says not only that, but when they, he says, moreover, they will remember their past lives. This is when they're reborn in the human realm again. So when you're reborn, you remember your past lives. The ability to remember past lives is a form of wisdom because you get to see cause and effect in play. And you understand, you remember what you used to do and the resulting effects. So you become a lot, I won't say smarter, but a lot wiser in how to handle yourselves. So he says, these people remember their past lives and will dread the sufferings of the evil destinies. They remember being the sufferings of the evil destinies. And as a result of this, they will not delight in worldly pleasures, but will rejoice in giving and praise others to give. So now they understand all the benefits of giving, and they see worldly pleasures as something very fleeting. And even if you get to enjoy worldly pleasures, but you don't practice, then the chances of falling into the lower realms as they had just experienced is very, very real. So then the Buddha says, gradually to those who come to back, they will be able to give their own head, eyes, hands, feet, and even the entire body, to say nothing of their money and property. So this line is referencing someone eventually being able to walk the Bodhisattva path. Because not today, but next week, we will see. My plan is to go through the whole, uh, what's the whole thing about giving from the Pali Canon, the Theravada Suttas, right up to walking the Mahayana path, and how a Bodhisattva perfects the act of generosity. Okay, all right. So so when I was reading this part of the sutra, I was struck by how being able to hear the name of Medicine Master Buddha, and then if a person were to fall into the lower realms as a result of their greed and stinginess, and then if they can recall having heard the name, then immediately they can get out of the lower realms, and not just get out, but be reborn in the human realm with, and able to recall their past lives. And it seems as if Shakyamuni Buddha is saying these people then will eventually become, will walk the path until they walk the Bodhisattva path and become Buddhas. And I honestly cannot explain how. I don't understand the mechanism of that. I guess maybe based on what I know, if I had to make an educated guess, it's probably when they were human, and to be able to hear the name of Medicine Master Buddha, it would mean that they already had some wholesome karmic seeds, some very good roots. And not only that, hearing the name of Medicine Master Buddha probably meant that they planted some wholesome seeds as well. So after they had fallen, just the act of recollecting the name brought forth the wholesome seeds, I guess, and I'm guessing a sincere wish of repenting for them to be able to leave that behind and be reborn as a human being. If anyone knows, please share. Okay, now we come to something which is fun, which is a story. Okay, so remember when the Buddha was saying someone who is so stingy that they don't even use the money for themselves, much less their parents or their wives and their children. Okay, so I found this story in the Jataka. The Jataka is a collection of stories of the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha's former lives. Yeah. Every time, if the occasion was appropriate, Shakyamuni Buddha would share a story of his past life, and it will all be collected, and the collection is called the Jataka. So this story is story number 8. I think we have 500 and maybe 35, 500 plus recorded stories in the Jataka. And this is number 78 in case you want to go read it yourself. And the title of this Jataka is called Elisa the Miser. Okay. So who is Elisa? Okay. So it is said that during Shakyamuni Buddha's time, okay, there was a certain Lord High Treasurer. I'm not sure what that means, Lord High Treasurer. I think it's a title. But this person personally was a very, very rich person, like a multi-millionaire, that kind of rich. But he was so stingy that the story says that not even the tiniest drop of oil, like say if you take a blade of grass and you dip it in oil and you pull it out and that drop of oil that sticks onto the grass, he says, not even a drop of oil would he give away or consume for his own enjoyment, or would he use his wealth either for his family or for any teachers or sages or Brahmins. And he said his wealth was like a pool haunted by demons because his money was just there, staying there and not being used or not being enjoyed. Okay. So one day Shakyamuni Buddha says, upon awakening at dawn, one of the things about they said about the Buddha is that he would scan the earth, and out of compassion, he would scan the earth and look for beings who were ready to be saved. And so on this particular day, he became aware of that this treasurer and his wife says were like a fruit ripe for picking. That means they were ripe for awakening, but they were a few hundred miles away from where the Buddha was. Okay, so the day before this, okay, so the story starts the day before this. This high treasurer was walking in town, and when he was walking in town, he saw this person eating a cake, and this wasn't a normal cake. It says a cake stuffed with gruel. I guess it's kind of like, I don't know, like a donut that we have with a filling. So it's a cake with a filling. And when he saw this person eating the cake, in him arose the desire for the same cake himself. He said, oh, I want one too. But when he arrived home, he had this thought. He said, if I say I should like a stuffed cake, then a whole host of people will want to share my meal. And that means getting through ever so much of my rice and my ghee and my sugar. Says, so I mustn't say anything to anyone. Okay. So he wants to eat, but he's afraid that if he tells anyone, then they also want to share in his meal. And that means using up his rice and his ghee and all that. So he rather kept quiet. Okay. So we're talking about someone who is the epitome of selfishness. So as he was pacing around, because he couldn't forget about the cake, he kept on thinking about the cake. But at the same time, he didn't want to satisfy his craving. So they said that after an hour had passed, he became more and more yellow, and his veins started standing out on his emaciated frame. Apparently, he was also really thin. Okay, and then he says until he couldn't stand it any longer, then he went to his room and lay down, and just acted like he was sick, and still being really stubborn and not wanting to say anything. So the wife noticed there was something wrong with him. So the wife said, "What's wrong, my husband?" And he said nothing. Says, "Oh, did was the king angry with you?" He said, "No." He said, "Oh, has our children or the servants done anything to annoy you?" He said, "No." And she said, "Oh, do you have a craving for something?" He kept quiet for a long while, and then finally he said, "Yes." He says, I have a craving for one thing." So the wife asked him, "What it is, my husband?" He said, "Oh, I would really like to have a stuffed cake to eat." And the wife was, "Oh, like that's all?" I said, "Oh, why didn't you say so?" He says, "Okay, well, we have so much rice and ghee and butter and sugar, honey." Says, "Okay, I'll make enough cakes to feed the whole town." And then his response, he was horrified. He said, "Why trouble about them? They have to work to earn their own meal." Okay, sounds like some politicians. Some people are so stingy that even if it's not their money, but say the government helping people, they object to that. So this guy was like that. He says everyone must work to earn their own meal. Then the wife said, "Oh, well, okay, well then I just cook enough for our street, our neighbors." Then the husband said, "What? Do you think you're very rich?" Then the wife said, "Okay, I'll just cook enough for our own house." And then the husband said, "Oh, you're so extravagant." Then the wife said, "Okay, very well. I'll just cook enough for us and our children." Then the husband said, "Why do you want to bother about our children?" And then the wife said, "Okay, I'll just, cook enough for the two of us." And then the husband said, "Why should you be involved? I'm the one who wants the cake." And then the wife sighed and just said, "Okay, I'll just cook for you alone." Then the husband said, "Okay." Says, "This is what you should do." He's telling the wife. Says, "Very, very quietly, go collect just enough for one cake. Okay. Don't let anyone see you, and then go to the roof of the house, and then you can do the cooking there. And then I will come up, and there'll be no one to disturb us, and then I can eat my cake." So by now you can probably guess that the wife was a very, very patient woman to be able to stand all this nonsense. So very obediently, she took all those things. She went up to the roof, and she started preparing for the cake. So at this time, the Buddha told one of his disciples, Venerable Maha Moggallana. He says, "Moggallana," says, "there's this very stingy millionaire in this town. It's about 400 miles away from here. And he's so stingy that that he wants to eat his cake, but he's afraid of letting people know. So he's hiding by himself on the roof of his building where his wife is cooking the cakes for him now." He says, "Moggallana, I want you to go there and bring the couple, both the wife and husband, here. And today's meal will be provided by them. That's what the Buddha said. So Venerable Moggallana, I have problem pronouncing his name. Using his spiritual power, I think by that time he was an arhat. He flew and he looked for this couple on the top of their roof. And when he saw them, he just stood, he suspended himself in mid-air, because Venerable Moggallana already knew what was going on. By the way the Buddha explained, he knew what he had to do. So just as about this stingy person was to eat his cake, he saw Venerable Moggallana there. And he said, "What?" So I came all the way up here to the 7th floor. Okay, so I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but the roof of his building, he was so rich, he had a very big building, big house, 7th floor. So he said, I came all the way up to the 7th floor precisely to escape people. And now there's one of them floating outside. And because he was so stingy, he failed to understand what really was going on. You know, when you see a monk suspended in mid-air, you know, looking at you, you shouldn't be you shouldn't be thinking about still be stingy. So what he did was he started scolding Venerable Moggallana. He says, "What do you think you'll get just by simply standing in mid-air? You're not going to get anything from me." He says, "Even if you walk up and down in mid-air, you know, you still get nothing." And just as soon as he said that, Venerable Moggallana started to walk back and forth in the air. And this made the treasurer more upset. He says, "What are you doing walking back and forth, He says, "Even if you sit cross-legged in meditation in the air, you still get nothing." And guess what? Venerable Moggallana then started sitting, and this infuriated the treasurer even more. And then says, "Even if you started belching smoke, you still get nothing." And then that's exactly what Venerable Moggallana did next. He belched forth smoke. He says, till the whole place was filled with smoke. And then this made the treasurer's eyes begin to smart. And then he thought to himself, he says, "This elder," meaning Venerable Moggallana, "is most persistent." He says, "He simply won't go away empty-handed. I must have just one cake given to him." So he told his wife, he says, "Okay, my dear, we have no choice. It looks like we have no choice. Can you cook one more cake? Make one more cake and give it to the sage." So the wife started making another cake. But as she was making the cake grew and grew and grew. Yeah. And this made the treasurer even more horrified, because he thought that his wife was using a lot of ingredients, because instead of making enough for just one little cake, it seemed as if the whole pot was filled with dough. So he started scolding his wife. He says, "How can you use so much? I told you just to make one little cake for the monk." So what he did was he took a spoon and he took just a little piece of the dough and he wanted to give just that little piece to the monk. He just wanted to bake that little piece on the spoon. But that little piece also grew to be even larger than all the dough in the pot. And then finally he gave up. He just gave up. He said, "Okay." He says, you deal with him," he told the wife. So the wife finally baked a cake, and then using all the dough, so there were a lot of cakes. And when she tried to take just one cake for Venerable Moggallana, she couldn't, because all the cakes were all stuck together. So she told the husband, he said, "I can't give him just one cake. They've all stuck together and, you know, they become one big cake." So he said, "Okay, let me try." So he tried to separate the cakes so that he could take just one cake out, but he couldn't. So he spent a lot of time straining himself, and he was a skinny little guy, like trying to pull, and he exerted himself so much that his own craving for the cakes totally left him. He wasn't hungry for the cake anymore. So, so at this point, he said to his wife, like he was really, really unhappy. He said, "I don't want the cakes anymore. Give everything to this ascetic." So the wife took all the cakes in the basket and approached Venerable Mahagalana and very respectfully gave him the cake. And let me see, where are my notes? Okay. And so when Venerable Mahagalana received the cakes, he gave them a teaching. He talked about the excellence of the triple jewel, which was the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and how that this act of giving by this couple was a true sacrifice. And he talked about other good works that that really inspired this couple. So the treasurer finally invited Mahagamagana to come into the house and not just float in mid-air anymore, to come in, to sit comfortably on the couch and to eat the cake. So at this point, Venerable Mahagalana and then said, the Buddha would, if you want to, there's the Buddha and 500 of us monks that's in the monastery. And what we could do is, you have made so many cakes, and we could offer them all these cakes for their meal for today. And this made the treasurer and the wife really happy. And so the rest of the story is about how Venerable Mahagalana, because they were so far away, used his powers to and he told them, he said, by the end, if you walk down your staircase, when you reach the end, you will find yourself in the Buddha's presence. So eventually they walked down the stairs and they offered the meal to the Buddhas and the monks. And although all 500 of them each had a cake, it is said that the cakes multiplied again and they could not exhaust the amount of cake that was left. Yeah. And they threw it away, and the place where they threw the excess cakes away is now known. There's a particular name there that is associated with the cakes. So after the Buddha had finished the meal, then the Buddha gave the treasurer and his wife a discourse. He taught them the Dharma. And at the end of his Dharma, it is said that this couple, hold on, let me see exactly. It is said that this couple became, I think it's stream enterers. Yeah, I think they became stream enterers at the end of their giving. Yeah. So then, after this, the Buddha said, "Oh, actually, this is not the first time that Venerable Mahamoggallana has converted or has helped this treasurer." So then the Buddha talks about a different time, a long, long time ago, when Venerable Mahamoggallana was the treasurer's father. And not just Venerable Mahagalana, but the grandfather and all his ancestors were always very charitable. They always helped. They were a very, very rich family, just like now. But they all love to help poor people. And so Venerable Mahagalana, upon his death, became Lord Shaka in the heaven of the 33. And then this his son, which is this present treasurer, took over. And one day Lord Shakra said, "Oh, I better go see how my son is doing. Is he still carrying on a family tradition of helping people in need?" And then when he went down to earth, he disguised himself. He found that his son was really, really stingy, just like this person. In fact, they were the same person. So I'm not sure how many lifetimes of stinginess this poor person had to endure. So it's the same story with some differences where Chakra got so upset that he disguised himself looking at like his son, and then he gave a proclamation to the whole town. He said, "Today I open my treasury doors, and anyone who wants to come and take my whatever they want are welcome to do so." So he gave away all his wealth, and he told them, he said, "If you see anyone looking like me, and if they come and object, beat that person up." So, so when the real treasurer came back to the house and he saw everyone taking his wealth, he threw a fit. But because the servant was given instructions to beat anyone up that looked like him, he was beaten up instead. Yeah. So that's how the story goes. It's a really, really long story, but I encourage everyone to go look for Jataka number 78. Okay. All right. Okay, let's move on. Anyone have any comments? Okay, all right. Let's move on. Let's talk more about generosity. Okay, this is what the Buddha had to say. And this is titled Giving Even One's Last Meal. The Buddha said, if beings knew, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given, nor would the stain of selfishness overcome their minds. Even if it were their last bite, the last mouthful, they would not eat without having shared, if there was someone to receive their gift. But because beings do not know as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they eat without having given. The stain of selfishness overcomes their minds. Let's talk about this for a while, but before we do that, there's a verse counterpart to what we just read. This is the verse. Let's read the verse first, then we'll go back. Okay. So if beings only knew, so said the great sage, meaning the Buddha, how the result of sharing is of such great fruit, with a gladdened mind, rid the stain of meanness or selfishness. They would duly give to noble ones who make what is given fruitful. Having given much food as offerings to those most worthy of offerings, the donors go to heaven on departing the human state. Having gone to heaven, they rejoice, and enjoying pleasures there, the unselfish experience the result of generously sharing with others. Okay, let's go back to this. So, like I said, we're going to spend a bit of time speaking about generosity or giving. Why? Well, you've heard me say, I hope you remember, you heard me say that precepts are the foundation for samadhi or concentration, meaning meditation. So to have a effective foundation for meditation, you have to understand how to hold the precepts and control the mind so that you can meditate effectively. And in the last few weeks, we talked about how in the same principle, if you want to walk the Bodhisattva path, the Mahayana path, then your foundation are the vows that you make, right? We talk about how vows are the foundation for the Bodhisattva path. So we have precepts as the foundation for meditation. We have vows as the foundation for the Bodhisattva path. Then generosity, okay, the virtue of generosity is the foundation for spiritual practice. Okay, so even before we talk about precepts, even before we go to vows, okay, we should investigate giving. So the Buddha, it is said that in his discourses, if he were to meet people who were not his disciples yet, they haven't taken refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and they don't see the Buddha they don't recognize the Buddha as their teacher yet, the Buddha would always talk about generosity first. And in the Pali Canon, usually instructions for lay people are mostly around generosity instead of meditation. Okay, all right. So I have another story. We have some time today, so I can talk about another story. This story is called, let me see. It is called the Cow Herder's Mansion. And I think it is called, also known as the Velama Sutta, Velama, Velama Sutta. Okay, so what is the Cow Herder's Mansion? So again, we have Venerable Mahamoggallana. Okay, he's featured in this story as well. So he was walking on arms round, and one day he saw a beautiful, radiant deva. A deva is a being from the heavens. So Venerable Mahamoggallana asked the deva, he said, Dear deva, you are living in a long-lasting mansion, and your hands are decorated with various ornaments. You are mighty and shine like the moon in your mansion. You are extremely beautiful. You are dressed beautifully in divine clothes. You are wearing divine flower garlands, and your hands are decorated with divine ornaments. Most importantly, beautiful ornaments decorate your hair and beard. You are famous and shine like the moon in your mansion. This is the first time I heard of heavenly beings having a beard. Yeah. Not just having a beard, but he has ornaments decorating his beard as well. It says, the sweet music of divine guitars plays throughout your mansion. Well-trained devatas delight in dancing and singing. Powerful deva, you have become a leader among devas. The pure radiance of your body and limbs is stainless and shines in all directions. Tell me, deva, what kind of meritorious action did you do when you were in the human world to have gained this beauty that shines in all directions and to have earned all these wonderful things? Okay, so Venerable Mahamoggallana saw this heavenly being, and I think it's not just any regular heavenly being. He says you are a leader among devas. So this is what the deva replied. The deva said, well, in my previous life, I lived in a human world, and my job was to gather other people's cows into one place and guard them. Okay, hence the title of this sutra, which is Cow Herder's Mansion. All right. It says, one day, a monk approached me on his alms round. At the same time, the cows ran towards a field of beans. All right. Bante, he said, addressing the Venerable. He said, suddenly I had to do two things, and both had to be done at once. I was wise and realized what I had to do. I dropped my wrapped parcel of rice cake on the ground, saying, Bante, I offer this to you. Then I chased after the cows before they damaged the bean field. While I was running, a deadly poisonous snake bit my foot. I was in great pain as I lay there on the ground. Out of compassion for me, that monk unwrapped the parcel of rice cake and ate it. I died of the snake bite at that moment and was reborn as a deva. Then the deva continues, he says, that was the only meritorious action I did. Bante, it was you who was very compassionate to me. That is why today I experience the happy results of my action. I know the importance of gratitude, and so I worship you. So this deva was very grateful for Venerable Mahamoggallana. I guess it's because when usually monks, when they go on alms round, they don't eat the food that's given to them on the spot. How it's practiced now is you collect the food. As you collect the food that is given, then you go back to the monastery or you go back to your place of practice, either under a tree or in a monastery, and then you redistribute the food and you share it with your fellow monks. But in this case, it seemed as if the deva was very grateful because before he died of the snake bite, Venerable Mahamoggallana understood what was happening and accepted the parcel of rice cake and ate it. So I just wanted to share that because in this slide, it is said that on the second the right hand side of the slide, it says, having given much food as offerings to those most worthy of offerings, the donors go to heaven on departing in the human state. Having gone to heaven, they rejoice and enjoying pleasures there. The unselfish experience the result of generously sharing with others. Okay, and let's move on to the next slide. This is called the power of small gifts. The Buddha says, even if a person throws the rinsings of a bowl or a cup into a village pool or pond, thinking, may whatever animals live here feed on this, that would be a source of merit. Okay. So I've collected some teachings from the Pali Canon. I'm sharing them with you right now. This is a requisite for spiritual progress. Okay, this talks about the importance of giving in meditation. It says, without abandoning these 5 qualities, one is incapable of entering and remaining in the first and up to the 4th jhana or dhyana, incapable of realizing the fruit of stream entry and up to arahantship. Which 5? Stinginess as to one's monastery or lodgings, stinginess as to one's family of supporters, stinginess as to one's gains, stinginess as to one's status, and ingratitude. What's ingratitude? Ingratitude is not being able to recognize acts of kindness when they are done for you. It means you have no gratitude. Without abandoning these 5 qualities, one is incapable of entering and remaining in the first and up to the 4th dhyana. One is incapable of realizing the fruit of stream entry and up to arahantship. With the abandoning of these 5 qualities, one is capable of entering and remaining in the first and up to the 4th jhana, capable of realizing the fruit of stream entry and up to arahantship. So it is clear from here how basic and how important the virtue of generosity is. How you say, someone who is naturally generous, their frame of mind enables them to be calm and to be concentrated. Okay, we have like maybe 8 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions or any remarks or any stories about stingy people that you know or yourself? No? Okay. We can do 2 things right now. We can go through the 32 hallmarks as how we do at the end of every class. But today, let's do something different instead. I have something more fun. Let me look for it. I thought I had it open. Yes.
What did you
Yes, Kuala, yes.
May I share, Pastor? Just know your childhood story, you know. I was suddenly I thought of this Vatamsaka Sutra, chapter 40, on the 3rd vow, you know, the vow of giving, 3rd vow,
Yes.
offering. So here, Pastor, Sufu commentary, you know, at the end of this giving offering, just like Pastor said, the monk took the offering from this cowherd now, and then the cowherd was born in the heaven, right? So here, Sufu at the end, Sufu said on this offering, Sufu said to sum it all. It is on page 63, Pastor, the chapter 40. Then Sufu said to sum it up, whatever Dharma door you hear, that is the Dharma door you cultivate. So for me, I was thinking that it also refers to meditation, mindfulness. Then it is at the moment, at the present moment, we do the offering. So whatever, here, that's why Sufu said, whatever Dharma door you hear, that is the Dharma door you cultivate. There are so many Dharma doors, right or not? 84,000 Dharma doll. So at the present, the cowherd died, and then he give offering to the monk. So the monk then Fasu said that usually go back home and then go back to the temple, then distribute. But this monk, Mangalama, he ate the food there, and then this cowherd was born in heaven. So what do you think, Fasu? Clarify for me. I was linking it to this.
I'm sorry. What do I think about what?
What do you am I the comparison? Is it the same, similar?
Are you similar? I'm sorry. Can you rephrase your question?
Because here Sufu said now on the third vow of Atamsaka Sutra chapter 40, Fasu is in page 63. So here Sufu said on the offering, on doing offering, Sufu said, Sufu explained a lot already lah. Then at the end, Sufu said to make a summary of it all lah. Sufu said whatever Dharma door you hear, that we have 84,000 Dharma door, correct?
Yes.
So whatever Dharma door you hear, that is the Dharma door you cultivate. So hearing and seeing. So when we hear, that means at the moment I was thinking linking to meditation also, because meditation is here and now. So we act. So offering out. So the monk Mangalana that Fasu said took the food that the cowherd gave. So the cowherd was born in heaven. So the Mangalana, he ate the food. That means he took the offering from this cowherd there and then. Correct or not? I don't know.
Oh,
so
okay.
I linked to that. So now mindfulness is now and the present, right? So Dharma door, whatever Dharma door. So the Dharma door, this Mangalana, when he received, that is the Dharma door, the offering of this cowherd. So as an example, he's showing us. I don't know lah. So Fasu, you just clarify me. Suddenly I link it to this Sufu's explanation on offering the third vow.
Well, without reading, wait. First of all, thanks Guan for sharing that, and you have a very good memory. And without reading it myself, I can't say for sure. But it doesn't seem like you're wrong. You know, to say that. Yeah.
Okay, Fasu, Amitabha.
All right. Thanks so much for sharing that. Okay. Ms. Yap has a question in the chat box. It says, what about class during Chinese New Year starting 12th of February? Honestly, I haven't thought so far ahead yet. Let me see. What's the 12th of February? 12th of February is Friday. When is Chinese New Year? Does anyone know?
12th of February?
12th of February, Fasu.
Okay, 12th of February. So 13, 14. Okay, I know that we are having a 24-hour Tapecho or Great Compassion Mantra recitation at the monastery. I think that starts on the Thursday. I have to reconfirm. So it shouldn't affect our Sunday class unless people want the class to be postponed. I'm not sure if I see a reason. I'm okay with holding the class, and I think it's nice to start the new year off with Dharma. But if anyone has any thoughts or ideas, yeah, you can share on the WhatsApp group, and then we can have a group discussion based on that. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, so it's 9:59. Time is up. We won't get to do the 32 hallmarks or the video that I wanted to show you, but we'll do that next week. Okay. Okay, so activity from the temple. I'm not sure if we are streaming the 24-hour Tapecho. When I find out, I'll post it in the WhatsApp group. So people, if we are streaming, wait, let me see. Is Miss Leong online. Let me look at who's online with us right now. Okay, Miss Leong is not here. Does anyone know if Tân Pi An is streaming?
Sure.
Yes.
On the 14th is starting the 3,000 Buddha's repentance.
On the 14th. Okay, are we going to be streaming
Yes.
that, Felicia?
That I don't know.
Okay. All right. Let me find out. And
It's
if
a
you...
clash,
Yes?
but it's a clash with class.
Yeah, the class will still go ahead. Because, you know, if the class stops for a Fa Hui, then every time a branch has a Fa Hui, then, you know, the class will never get to we only have half the classes left. So the class will continue. And then anyone in the group who wants to join the bowing, yeah, you should join the bowing, and then just catch the class on YouTube when you have the time. All right. Okay, that's let me change the slides and then we can dedicate merit. Okay, I'm going to put my palms together. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, everyone, we'll see you next week with more stories of and examples of giving and generosity. Okay, bye-bye.